Hello, Stephen.
Hey mate, how's it going?
Good, I'm good. So, just to start off with, can you tell me some facts about yourself?
Facts about myself. I'm from Liverpool. I've got 2 kids, a wife, and I'm a wedding photographer.
You're a wedding photographer?
Yeah.
I never knew
Do
that.
you know, once I actually shot a member of the royal family.
Oh, go on, who?
And we've known each other for a while. I don't think you know this, actually.
I don't know this.
Well, technically it's the royal family. Do you know the royal family, the TV show?
Why did I know this was going to go left really quick?
Well, you know Anthony from the royal family?
Yeah.
I shot his brother's wedding and got to take some pictures of Anthony. So technically, I might sneak that on my website somewhere that I once photographed a member of the royal family.
Well, why not? I didn't know that, actually. I do remember that. I remember you posted a picture of Ralph Little, I think, around that time.
Yeah, it was a great moment, that though. It wasn't just like to post a picture of Ralph Little. It was a nice moment.
I remember. I trust you. But you've skipped ahead. So let's go back to, what did you do before you were a wedding photographer?
Before I was a wedding photographer, I was in the Royal Air Force for 16 years. Joined on my 17th birthday. Become part of the institution and travelled the world and met loads of cool people. And yeah, 16 years after that, I became a wedding photographer.
But why? So what? Just sticking with that though for a minute. Like, why was that like a dream you had to join the RAF, or was that just something that came out of nowhere?
No, I think, to be honest, like, I don't know. Maybe calling myself a creative because I didn't do great in school is too much of an excuse to lean on. But when I was in school, I was a bit like the joker of the pack. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't like pay much attention in class, so I didn't get really good grades or anything. So I remember thinking, what can I do? And my mum said, why don't you think about joining the Air Force? I didn't get super poor grades in school, but everything was like C and below. And I think my mum said about joining the Air Force. So, I'm just like I'm a bit of a yes man in terms of I like to try new things. I'll give anything a go. Try new foods, go new places, experiencing new cultures, whatever it is, that's just in my DNA, really. So, but I think my mum said, why don't you do it? And I was like, well, why not? So I just went for it. And then I sat an aptitude test and they said, there's a lot of things you can do. What do you want to do? Pick something, joined up. Spent most of my career working around helicopters and aviation fuel, which is always a strange transition from that into becoming a wedding photographer. But,
I was going to ask you the question I always see people ask you when this conversation comes up is, were you a pilot? So what did you actually do in the RAF?
It was I was in logistics, specifically for fuel, and like I say, most of it was working around fuel for helicopters. But after that, I was in Cyprus for 4 years, maintaining like huge bulk fuel installations, and served in countries all over the world doing my job.
I know. I know all the stories, so it's hard for me to just not say and tell us about this one. But yeah, you've worked all over the world, and obviously been on how many tours? How many medals have you got from the RAF?
6 medals I've got. Yeah, Iraq, Afghanistan, Northern Ireland, Bosnia, Falkland Islands, and others.
Good on you. Yeah. And then, so obviously from Liverpool.
Yeah,
I know. Even though you've been all over the world doing that when you were in the RAF, and you've lived in other places in the UK as well, but obviously you've ended up back in Liverpool. Yeah, and that's just because why is that? You just love the city.
All my family's here, and people from Liverpool are really strong family orientated. So, and I was married a girl from Liverpool as well, so her family was here, so it always made sense to come back here. And can I just add, actually, that I'm an Everton fan as well, because whenever I do my weddings around the world where I'm at, and I say I'm from Liverpool, they'll be like, oh, Klopp's leaving, or Mohamed Salah, or whatever. And I always have to say, oh, no, I'm an Everton fan, so just want to drop that in there in case anyone's curious.
Good work. I'm glad you did. So then, at what point... Because I know you were still in the RAF when you decided that you were going to be a photographer, maybe not a wedding photographer at that point, but at what point did it start to come into your head that you were going to maybe leave the RAF and that photography was going to be what you were going to
do? Well, I've been in the RAF for, 16 years, like I say. It was a long time. And I decided that I wanted to do something different. Because I always like trying new things, like I've already said. Like, once I picked up a guitar, I was like fully into it. And I'm like, right, I'm going to be a professional guitar player. I started getting into parachuting, actually. And after like doing 6 or 7 parachute jumps, I was like, this is my new job. Like, I started looking at parachutes to buy, but parachutes aren't cheap, and you don't want to buy a cheap parachute, do you? So I was looking how expensive it was to get into parachuting. So I did a few more jumps. I think I did like 11 in the end, but and then I got into snowboarding, and then as soon as I tried that, I was like going all the time, and I was like, right, looking at jobs on like in Switzerland or Austria, becoming a snowboard instructor. And I'm like, when I try something, I'm all in. But like, I get bored of things quickly as well. So, but one thing I picked up was photography, and that's something that's obviously stuck, something that I was good at and that I put 100% of everything into. And I started just doing it like at weekends, doing like loads of family stuff for RAF people and stuff. And, at weekends, I'd just go out and do family shoots all weekend. Do you ever remember that company, Venture Photography?
I do.
Where it's like, a photo shoot for £1, and you get like a free, 1 centimeter by 2 centimeter photo, and then you can buy the rest for like £1 million. I sort of had that like a much more ethical version of that. So I ended up doing, a lot where I wouldn't get much out of it, but, I made a little bit of money on the side. And then I thought, I wonder if I did this full time, if I could make more money. And, I was looking around at other photographers in the industry that were doing well, and decided that I'm going to try and, make photography my new job if possible. Yeah.
When was it? How long ago was that then? That kind of became a reality?
I don't know, maybe started like 2015. I got a camera and started shooting just my own stuff. Then I started doing family stuff. And then after a while of doing all the family stuff, I decided I was going to leave. And then I did it like a wedding for a mate in the RAF and another wedding for a mate in the RAF. But when I decided I want to leave, I don't want to go off on a huge tangent, but I actually had a personal training business on the side as well, because like I say, I got into that and wanted to do that as well. So I was like spinning all these plates. And then I was working so hard at these extra things. So I was putting my time into the RAF, my time into my family, time into my photography, time into my personal training business, playing my guitar and snowboarding on the side. And it was all a lot. I actually got a mentor through the Air Force that said, like, you're putting like 120% effort into everything you're doing. But if you just put all that into 120% into one specific thing, you go much further with it. So I just sacked everything off and just really pushed the photography side of things. Decided I was going to leave. And then in 2017, left the Air Force, set up a website, started asking to do weddings for free. People started inquiring where I was getting weddings in through the door, just through my website. And the rest is history, I guess.
And here we are today. End of interview. Nice to see you.
Yeah, thanks.
No. I mean, there's so much more to that story that I know. Obviously, that I don't want to turn this into like a 3-hour interview. But so, at what point did it go from thinking that your whole photography existence was going to be around families, and if I remember rightly, dogs as well? There was like an element of like shooting pets,
dogs, horses.
Yeah. But then when did it become weddings? Like, at what point did you decide, no, I'm going to go all in on weddings?
It was more like a business thing. It's like, I just seen it as like, I could make really good money shooting like horses and, people that worked in stables, horse owners with their horses and dogs and stuff. But it was a lot of work. Sometimes you'd shoot and not get any money. Sometimes you do a shoot and make like 1,600 quid. But what the most annoying thing is like, I like working hard and making money, and I like the game of business, and you put the effort in and you can get money out of it. But I really enjoyed the photography side. But my problem was, like, if I was to leave the Air Force now from a security point of view, because it was such a secure job, the Air Force, it was like, how much money am I going to be making? Like, we're in June now, so like, how much money am I going to be making through horses and dogs and families next February? And I wouldn't know that. And I didn't like the insecurity of knowing that. So when I left the Air Force, I was like, I don't like this insecurity. So when I noticed that like a wedding in the diary for like, 18 months time or 15 months time, 10 months time, whatever it was, that was secure. So I thought it'd be better just to have more of those in. And then just naturally, I started doing more weddings from there, and then just pushed it. And learn SEO and Facebook ads as fast and as quick as possible. Because when I knew, I've told you already earlier on that like when I get my eyes and heart set on something, I'm all in. So I was like, right, I'm leaving the RAF. Quite rash decision. So I said, I'm just gonna have to move in with my mum, with my wife, who was pregnant with a 2-year-old kid, and we'll just make it happen. So that's when like the insecurities built up and that I needed to change tacticals and how much time I was giving up to the family dog and horse stuff and try and make it into more wedding stuff. And I think in my first year I made like £7,000 in business, which isn't a lot, but I was living with my mum. But because of that fear and insecurity, that's what made me sort of work so hard at my SEO and so hard at my Facebook ads, Google ads, or whatever it was, to try and get the work in and leave as much money on the table to make sure the business was going to be a success. Turns out I'm doing okay now.
You are doing okay. And obviously I know, again, it's so hard interviewing someone you know so well where I know all the answers to these questions, but obviously a huge thing back when we first met, because we met 2017 as well, when you were just kind of, I don't know, maybe coming to the end of your first year. And a big thing back then for you was doing a lot of work for very little money, wasn't it? And a big thing as part of that was that you used to offer free engagement shoots as like a Facebook ad campaign. And how much do you, because I don't really know what the question is here, but a lot of people will instantly think that you can't give away your work for free, or you can't work for free, or this or that and the other. But your approach was the opposite. It was to offer a lot of work for free. So what was the thinking around that kind of method for you?
I don't know. Like I say, I can be quite rational with my decision making in business, but like I just had an idea. Thought I'd give it a go. I thought I'd offer out free engagement shoots to people. I'll shoot them. I'll learn about myself as a photographer. I'll make mistakes, which I'll learn from. I'll have really successful moments, which I'll learn from. And I might book some weddings out of it. And I think, in fact, I know the stats quite well because I did like a mini talk a while back on the subject. And so I went back and gathered the stats. But I think I did a Facebook ad campaign for free engagement shoots in my area, or my county or surrounding counties maybe. And I think I did 24 free shoots, and some of these were like an hour away. Some of them were half an hour away. Some of them were 20 minutes away. And then the shoots were like an hour, 2 hours long. And then I had to call them and then I had to edit them. So there's a lot of time there for 24 shoots for zero guaranteed pounds. But, I learned a lot about myself as a photographer. My photography improved quite a lot. I became quite self-critical of the work. And I think I booked from the 24 shoots 7 weddings. And those were fully paid weddings. And from those weddings themselves, those weddings helped me create content, which I was really good at SEO at the time. So I was turning these photo shoots into SEO. I was turning the blogs from the weddings into SEO. I was doing loads of marketing in terms of using the photos that I took at the weddings with vendors. So those 7 weddings were a catapult really into helping me, get onto the right track to become a successful wedding photographer.
No, I remember being inspired by the it's a bit of a dirty word these days, but the whole hustle mentality. I remember being inspired by that when we first met. And then I can fill in the blanks here because again I know quite well, but what so you'd say that obviously that mentality of kind of hustling for your business and having to make it work because you've left the RAF is one huge contributing factor to why you've become a successful photographer. But I know obviously you signed up for mentoring with me back then as well.
Yeah.
And I know you would say that that's also I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but just having mentoring or having that investment in yourself and in training is kind of the other 50% almost of why you ended up being a success.
Oh, no, you listen to me, Adam, right? I'll tell you now that without your mentoring, I'd have been equally as successful. But
I agree.
It would have taken me another extra 10 years to do it. I'd have got there. But yeah, no, like the mentoring side just was the biggest thing, like you say, I don't want to blow smoke up your arse either, but
no, please don't.
But no, but the mentoring was the biggest influence in my whole business because you were super successful at the time. You shot in multiple continents, you'd won multiple awards, you'd done you'd done everything. You know, your photography was incredible. Your use of light was amazing. It was something that I thought, you know, it was even beyond my reach. So I thought, well, it doesn't matter. You know, there is no limit. So when I invested in your mentor, and I thought how hard I could work, and if you can, you know, if you could make me just half the photographer once over again, then that would be great. But like, you know, it helped me so much, and it helped me, you know, double and a bit my prices within 12 months, and my work improved quite a lot. And, you know, I remember other photographers, you know, being super shocked. And I don't want to blow my own trumpet either, but I remember other photographers saying to me, were shocked at how short a time I'd been doing it, with the quality of the work and weddings I was shooting, because obviously I was getting referrals through your mentoring, and I was doing the mentoring during those free pre-shoots as well. So, you know, some of the mentoring sessions that I used up with you were critiquing those shoots. So I go out and do one shoot, come back, and then you'd say, oh, you could have done this, you could have done this, or you did great here, you could have done this with that. And then the next shoot I could implement that, and then I'd come back and you could critique it again. So my photography skills themselves went through the roof, my business skills went through the roof, and everything, all thanks to mentoring. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, I was about to bring that up. You know, yeah, I did. It's awkward to bring it up, obviously, but in a lot of ways, I was going to say about the free pre-shoots you were doing, because the thing with mentoring is it only works if you're also working hard. So it's like if you'd come to me and said, I want mentoring, and then I just told you some stuff, and then you expected it all to fall into place because of that, it wouldn't have all fallen into place because of that. And that's why I always say, it's not really thanks to me that it worked. It's thanks to you, because we were working together, but then you were going away, and with that mentality you already had to work as hard as you possibly could and invest as much of your time as you had into your business and your photography. That's what really made it successful. And also for me, that's like the key with mentoring is, it's not really about someone telling you how to do it, or it's just about somebody maybe filling in the blanks and giving you a little bit of direction, so that you're not just haphazardly doing stuff all over the place, you know, too much trial and error. It's taking a little bit of the trial and error away from it and saying, this is good, like go in this direction, or try this next time. And that's probably why it's kind of sped things up. But no, I think, I mean, to me, it's both of them. It's the fact that you were invested in yourself anyway. Obviously, the reason we met in the first place was you were at a conference. You know, we met at a conference, so you were already invested in that educational side of stuff.
Yeah, and what you're saying there about the whole, as the mentee is putting the effort in, like, you know, you can't sign up to mentor and then just say, hey, make me good. Like, you know, the whole, I just like I say, I throw myself feet first into anything, and I also paid you a sum of money as well. So when I paid you the money, I was like, I need to get my money's worth out of this. So I need to ask him as many questions as I can. I need to squeeze the lemon and get as much juice out of this guy as possible. And I need to do my bit, and I need to work. If he said, you know, if you were giving me tips and tricks to shoot in certain type of light, I knew I had to go and shoot it like 1,000 times over to get my money's worth. Do you know what I mean? Myself, and come back and report to you, and then you could say yes and no and whatever. But it's like, you know, like I say, I would have been able to get there myself for over 10 years, but I was able to do it in 12 months. But it's the same as becoming, like, if you want to get like really in shape, like on the front cover of a magazine, you know, we all know how to do it. You just eat the healthy foods and just work out every day and don't eat any crap. Do you know what I mean? But paying for a personal trainer who's going to hold you accountable, who's going to give you tips to do it quicker, who's going to give you not shortcuts, but make sure that you're not going the long way around things. You know, this is a good analogy. It's like the personal training thing. It's something that most people can relate to. So, but, you know, you can't just pay a personal trainer, you know, 300 quid a month and then just expect to start looking good. You're the one that has to go and do the 10K runs and get up at 5 in the morning and go to the gym and don't eat the chocolate bar. You know, you still have to put all the work in. Makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. So let's change tack a little bit for a second. So tell us about the equipment that you use. What kind of cameras, lenses, and bits and bobs do you have?
I'm not a technical guy, man. They've got buttons on the top and glass thing at the front, and I press it.
But the brand of them?
They're Sony cameras. Yeah, and the only reason I upgraded to Sony was just because I needed to change from SLR to mirrorless. Was the main reason, really, because I was happy shooting with my Canon 5D Mark IIIs with my loop. I love that loop. I've still got it. Yeah. But yeah, I switched to Sony in 2019, and I couldn't afford two Sony, so I only bought one with a 35mm lens. And I didn't want to shoot with two different camera systems, so I just shot with one Sony camera with one 35 1.8 lens on it. My Canon camera was in my bag, and I shot 44 weddings in 2019 with one camera and one like cheap lens, really.
Mate, I wish we could. I mean, I'm looking at the time here basically, and I know we talked at the beginning about this not being too long of an interview, but maybe we could talk about the whole one camera, one lens thing at a later date, because I think
interview on that.
Yeah, separate one on that.
I learned so much about composition. Anyway, another time.
No, exactly, but I mean, what benefits would you say that had? I mean, obviously, even now, I know you're still very minimal with your kit. I know now we're talking two bodies, two lenses. Most of the time. Since then,
the only upgrade I've had is another camera, obviously another Sony body, when I afforded it. And the only upgrade since 2019 I've had is a drone. And I think I bought a wide angle lens because I never had anything wide. So I bought a 25mm Zeiss. But other than that, since 2017, I've technically not actually I've had zero upgrades since 2019. I've had zero upgrades since then.
Yeah. It's weird asking you about gear because I know you really don't care. I know you really don't care about it. But
I do. I just I don't know. Like my tools do the job. And
that's what I mean though. That's what I mean. Like you're not gonna. I mean, that's the difference between you and me, isn't it? Like one of us is this mega gear nerd, and the other one it just isn't. But I mean, I know also you have a bag full of flash stuff. So flash for you is what would you say is your mainly? Would you be like, if the natural light is fine, I'll use natural light, and flash is only the tool that you have in the bag if you really need it? Or how do you think about it? Or would you always, for instance, use flash at the party?
I don't naturally like the idea of using flash at all. Like when I first started out, the thought of using flash at all absolutely petrified me so much that I put on my website, Stephen Walker photographer, natural light photographer. That was my scapegoat to try and my excuse to not use flash in case anyone ever asked me to do it. I'd be like, oh no, I'm just a natural light guy. But learning flash was one of the greatest things ever, because if the light's poor, you've only got the light what you've given with. But if you can understand if you can give up the time to learn flash, like when I do use flash, only when I need to. Like if I think that I can make the light look better with flash than it is naturally, then I'll use flash. Like if the speeches I could shoot this ambient, I'll be okay. It's going to be like 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10 ambient light in sort of image quality and stuff. But it's going to be like an 8 out of 10 if I can put my flashes up. I'll put my flashes up.
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like it could go off on a massive tangent there, but I think it's just good for people to know that you, for instance, don't particularly care deeply about technical stuff. Like like you say, you've learned flash, and now you know that you know how to do it the way you do it, and it's there in the bag if you need it. If the natural conditions are not what you were hoping for.
Yeah, but just the technical side of flash is just like, I'm just a hands-on person. But that's the same for me with anything, whether it's SEO, the camera, marketing, anything. Like I found ways just through pure trial and error to what works best, and then I just stick with that. And if it stops working, I'll trial and error again until it works. Yeah,
I mean, that's fine though. That's what I'm saying. Really, is you don't have to be a mega tech nerd to become technically good at photography. But let's stick with the whole your general style approach to your photography now. What's important to you in your photography, like the way it looks, the way it feels?
That's a good question. It feels like a really obvious cliche answer for it to feel, just to say that I want it to feel natural and organic. Is that okay to say that? That's how I want it to feel. Like I don't try too hard on a wedding day. I hope none of my couples are watching this. No, I work extremely hard all day at trying to not force anything. Do you know what I mean? I just try and keep it just flowing. I remember I shot a wedding with you once, and you gave me like a backhanded compliment by saying it didn't really look like you were trying, not from like a guest point. Like I looked like I was just standing around like rolling fags and but like you just said, like it didn't look like you were trying too much, like creatively. Do you know what I mean? But I think
Let me just give a little bit of context to that before you carry on. So we shot a wedding together, and it wasn't like I was at the side going, "What is this guy doing?" Like it was more that when you showed me the preview of that wedding, I was surprised is the wrong word, but I wasn't expecting the pictures to be as good as they were because from watching you work on that day, you were quite nonchalant in your approach.
Yeah.
But that nonchalance passes on to everybody around you as like a sense of calmness. So it was like I was like, oh, I didn't expect the pictures to be this good because it didn't seem like he was trying that hard, but clearly that's just like it's the whole analogy of the duck, paddling under the water and looking really serene above the water.
Yeah, that's a far better way than putting it, because I just made it sound like you were just criticizing me all day, and then you were looking at me going, "Oh, I was wrong." But yeah, the way you worded it was much better. But I guess like my style is I just let it flow. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm just trying to think now, but like just like an artist with a paintbrush, not thinking too much. Like if Picasso didn't think too much and just drew a sketch and then just thought, I'll just do what gently, slowly just comes to mind as I just start drawing on the page and just see what happens.
Yeah,
there's no formula to my work. Say again.
Basically, trust in your own instincts.
Just go with it, and sometimes the pictures don't look as good as I feel like they're gonna, but I always get the photos that I need, for my clients, and then creativity doesn't have it's non-linear in the fact that it doesn't start and end anywhere, does it? So, if a bride's getting wants pictures of her getting her makeup done, then I'll get a picture of her having her makeup done, and then I'll just play slowly, just let the camera do what it wants attached to my arm, and just don't think about it too much. And then she's never going to go, "Oh, any pictures of me doing my makeup?" I'll have everything covered, and I'll just let my style take the camera where it wants to go.
Yeah, I mean, I would say stylistically between you and me, which is, I would say our styles have gone off in slightly different directions, but also with similarities. Like I think I've always been more documentary focused than you, whereas your work is a little bit more editorial in general. Yeah. If you're going to go with those two like buzz terms these days, it's almost like you're either documentary or you're editorial. Do you think about those kind of things?
I think the sole purpose of documentary wedding photography is to capture the moment, and I think maybe what I show more is more editorial. But I love the documentary. I actually put a blog together called Candid Wedding Photography with some of my favorite documentary work, and I'm really proud of it. And it ranks really well on Google as well, if you Google Candid Wedding Photography. And yeah, I love documentary style of photography. I do agree you and I have slightly changed. Like I'm not saying, I don't know if you do have any formulas, but when we did the mentor, I remember you teaching me how to use light and to put people in certain light. And I don't think I don't have, because you in your past job and your mindset as an analyst programmer type thing in your head, you have it makes sense in your head to create what you want to create. Whereas I don't really think about it as much. I'm just more of I just let it unfold how it unfolds in front of me and just let it. And I actually was with a couple of weeks ago, and the light was really nice, and I was doing that, and I something came over me, and I started getting a bit more formulaic with my approach, and I tried to pose them a little bit, and it felt so alien to me, and I was so uncomfortable doing it that I just politely just said, yeah, okay, got that, and then just got back to doing things how I do them. And I think it'd be hard. I think it'd be easier for you to type out how you work and send it to a photographer and they were to read it and then try and shoot like you. Whereas I'd find it hard to type out how I work and send it to someone and then try and replicate that. Like, I think you have to be with me at my weddings to watch how I make the images I do, where maybe yours has a bit more thinking logistics behind it. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe. But I think it's good that we've got different styles. But but why do you think your clients pick you then? Fair enough that you don't put too many words on what you do, or you couldn't write it out. But why do you feel like your clients pick you to be their photographer?
They like my photos. First of all,
helpful.
I don't know. It's like there's so many great photographers out there. It's hard to answer that question really, because I have Zoom calls sometimes and they're just saying, oh, we've looked through hundreds of photographers and then we came across yours and we're like, this is the guy. And I'm like, who are you looking at then? Because I'll show you 20 photographers now that you could easily pick over me, like some amazing photographers. But I guess, I think my work's strong, and I think people do buy from people, and I think if I was going to get a photographer for a wedding, I'd want to make sure that I got on with them well. So I think I have a good conversion rate from my Zoom calls. So I just think people book me because they like my work and they like my personality, and maybe they see something in my work that even I can't see because it's more on a subconscious level. But, I think I've got a consistent look to my work, and I think that's important for people who want to invest in good photography. So I guess that's all I can say on that, really, and why people are booking me.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's much of an answer in that, but it's good anyway. I mean, that's the thing though, isn't it? Like I would say that, again, the difference between the way that I share my work and the way you share your work is I'd say there's more consistency in the way you share your work, in the type of images you share, whereas mine's intentionally all over the place. Like I'll share a little bit of everything. Yeah. But no, it's a good answer. It's a good answer. So let's just wrap up, because it's definitely run over a little bit with, if you could give a tip to somebody who's just getting started in wedding photography, have you got one?
I would tell them to always keep an open mind to every style of photography, every composition style. Just be open to change and try new things, and finding out what you don't like is just as, or maybe even more important than finding out what you do like to shoot. So, with the whole, I found out that I didn't want to just be a natural light photographer, but I tried it and went down that route and then ended up struggling and stuff. But finding out what you don't like is important. And that goes for everything. Like, finding out if you like doing pre-wedding shoots or you find them uncomfortable, but do them and just try them and just see how they feel. And it could end up being the best thing that you ever do, or you might find that you don't like them, but you learn a lot about yourself, or you connect with your couples more so that it's better on the wedding day. So just being open to trying new things, shooting, just shoot as much as you can, really, and just learn as much as you can about yourself. And I keep reiterating the whole that just try new things and find out what you don't like.
Good. Great tip. Before we finish though, tell me why you, I mean, obviously you and I have co-founded FedWed. So why have we done that from your perspective? There's definitely a running theme for you throughout that, going right back to when you were in the RAF, through personal training, and then you maybe were going to be a snowboard instructor. There's almost like this thread there that you learn stuff, and then the thing you then want to do is help other people with it. So maybe that's where, on a kind of subconscious level, it's coming from.
Yeah. Do you know when I started learning guitar, as soon as I'd learned just the basic guitars, and I couldn't even play like a full song, maybe a bit I could, but I started teaching guitar. Like I was like giving guitar lessons to absolute beginners only, because I wouldn't want someone who was half off. It was never picked up a guitar before. These lessons were, and then people would come and I'd just teach them. But I was like relatively new to it. So I'd been through the learning process quite well and quite recently. So I felt like I was a good guitar teacher, and I taught people how to use guitar, like just extreme basics,
But no, I mean, you've always said that to me as well. Like, I can't remember if that was your analogy or something you'd read or heard somewhere else, but you said if you're a beginner guitar player, the best person you can learn from is somebody who's very recently also been a beginner guitar player.
Yeah. Yeah, because like if you were to get like Slash to teach you, he'd just get annoyed with you getting it wrong all the time. He wouldn't understand the difficulties of learning guitar new, because it's just so second nature to him. It's going to be less methodical in teaching. He's going to be like, "Yeah, man, just do this." And then
the question was why have we started FedWed from your perspective?
Well, yeah, I was going to answer it, and then you butted in.
Sorry, my fault.
No, well, I guess that's it, man. It's just like I want to be able to give back, and I one of the greatest things in my business, because you were saying about one tip as well, and obviously I said try new things to improve your photography. But if you want to improve your photography and your business, another great tip is just to meet and connect with as many other photographers as you can, because there's so many photographers out there that are just willing to share their failures and their mistakes, their wins, the progress, what's gone right for them, what's gone wrong for them, and just connecting with other photographers is such a great thing. So for us to create this, we're able to connect photographers to each other which we found was important, and in person in real life. Because like I say, I would never have been able to do the mentoring online, and online Zooms might have their value, but like for me, just being in person would always be better. So creating like an in-person company that helps connect people and teaches you at the same time was something I was like quite passionate about, like yourself. So that's why we did it.
What about from a personal perspective?
Just to meet new people, and I genuinely get like I feel good helping other people, like, so it's the same for me. Like I just want to create something that helps people. And if I was to see other people, like already a member of FedWed has booked a destination wedding through me, and one of his goals in the next few years was to book a destination wedding. And he said through meeting me and my advice and my help, he's booked a destination wedding in France. And that's incredible for me. Like that feels nice. Like, do you know what I mean? And I'd love to help more people.
Yes, mate. It's exciting times. Times. Good chats.
Good chat.
And thanks for that.
You're welcome, mate. Speak to you again soon.